Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we continue reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 15, text number 2. The Yoga of the Supreme Person. He's not well, so he asked me to come. So maybe he'll do it tomorrow. Adhas Chordham Prasta Prasrita Tasya Shaka Guna Prabridha Visaya Prabala Adhas Cha Mulani Anusantatani Karmanubhandhini Manushya Loke Adhasturdhvam Prasritas Tasya Sakha Adhasturdhvam Prasritas Tasya Sakha Guna Prabridha Visaya Prabala Guna Prabridha Visaya Prabhala Adascha Mulani Anusantatani Adascha Mulani Anusantatani Karmanubandhini Manushya Loke Karmanubandhini Manushya Loke Adhasturdhvam Prasritastasya Saka Guna Prabridha Visaya Prabhala Adascha Mulani Anusantatani Karmanubandhani Manushya Loke Adhasturdhvam Prasritastasya Saka Guna Prabridha Visaya Prabhala Adascha Mulani Anusantatani Karmanubandhini Manushya Loke Adhasturdhvam Prasritastasya Saka Guna Prabridha Visaya Prabhala Adascha Mulani Anusantatani Karmanubandhini Manushya Loke. Somebody else? Adasurdhvam Prasitastasya Saka Guna Prabridha Visaya Prabhala Adasya Mulani Anusantatani Word for word meaning. Adha, downward. Cha, end. Urdhvam, upward. prasrita, extended, tasya, its, sukha, branches, guna, by the modes of material nature, prabridha, develop, vishaya, sense objects, prabala, twigs, adha, downward, cha, and mulani, roots, anusantatani, extended, karma, to work, anubhandini, bound, manushaloke, in the world of human society. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. Everybody please repeat. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. Purport. The description of the banyan tree is further explained here. Its branches spread in all directions. In the lower parts, there are variegated manifestations of living entities. Human beings, animals, horses, cows, dogs, cats, etc. These are situated on the lower parts of the branches, whereas on the upper parts are higher forms of living entities, the demigods, Gandharvas, and many other higher species of life. As a tree is nourished by water, so this tree is nourished by the three modes of material nature. Sometimes we find that a tract of land is barren for want of sufficient water, and sometimes a tract is very green. Similarly, where particular modes of material nature are proportionately greater in quantity, the different species of life are manifested accordingly. The twigs of the tree are considered to be the sense objects. By development of the different modes of nature, we develop different senses, and the senses we enjoy, and by the senses we enjoy different varieties of sense objects. The tips of the branches are the senses, the ears, nose, eyes, etc., which are attached to the enjoyment of different sense objects. The twigs are sound, form, touch, and so on, the sense objects. The subsidiary roots are attachments and aversions, which are byproducts of different varieties of suffering and sense enjoyment. The tendencies toward piety and impiety are considered to develop from these secondary roots, which spread in all directions. The real root is from Brahmaloka, and the other roots are in the human planetary systems. After one enjoys the results of virtuous activities in the upper planetary systems, he comes down to this earth and renews his karma, or fruitive activities for promotion. This planet of human beings is considered the field of activities. Amagyana timirandasya ganangyana shalakaya chakshurun militam chena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalang Shri Gurung Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Shindo Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Deve Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kipa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Adhaschordham prasritastasya shaka guna prabhida visaya prabhala adascha mulani anusantatani karma nubandhini manushya loke. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. So, continuation here of the description of the banyan tree. This is an allegory to explain the nature of the material world being as that of a reflection, as Prabhupada says, a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. And the description is given that of the tree, the banyan tree, Ashvata, banyan tree. When you see the description of the banyan tree with the reservoir of water, and you look on the reservoir of water being on the bank of that reservoir of water, the banyan tree, it looks upside down. It's not real in a sense. It only reflects what is the real thing. So the nature of this material world is like that we are here in the material world, which is not meant to be the place of inhabitants for us. or habitat for us. This is not our home. Our original home is in the spiritual world. And somehow or other, this explains that we wanted to be happy, separate from Krishna. That's why we are here in this material world. It is given for those who want to independently separate themselves apart from the Supreme Lord. And so according to our different desires, we accumulate different species of life, birth after birth, and in different parts, in the different parts of the creation, this material creation, there is the moving and non-moving living entities. So according to our desires, we're given a specific body by the engineer of the universe, and particularly in our universe, Lord Brahma, who has 4 heads. So the ingredients, he used these different ingredients. This material energy comprises of Bhumi, Rapunalo, Bayu, Kamanu, Budur, Evacha. These 5 gross: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, sky. And then the subtle elements, material elements, namely mind, intelligence, and ego. And so it is said that there are 8,400,000 different desires. That's why there are 8,400,000 species of life. And I made a list here. There are 1 million species in birds. In human form of life, everybody knows 400,000 species. In the aquatics, there are 900,000 species. Insects, worms, and so on, 1,100,000 species. Trees and plants, there are 2 million species. Beasts, mammals, there's about 3 million. So it is not including the reptiles here and other species of life. Total, everything is 8,400,000 species of life. And that 400,000 species of life is just the list, the minimum in all these species of life. And not all of this human form of life is here in the planet Earth. Some are in the heavenly planets, some are in the lower planetary systems, as we are studying now also in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this human form of life is very rare. And in the heavenly planets, yes, there are different demigods over there, which means that their bodily features are far more exceedingly more beautiful. Says that they don't grow old, they just die because time is all bound. Right from the highest planetary system to Brahmaloka up to the lowest planetary system, there are 14 planetary systems. This birth, death, old age, and disease is the factor, or the factors that govern everyone. Everyone has to die anyway. No one can escape death. As one devotee says, there are only 2 things for sure in this world: tax and death. Everybody has to pay tax, and everybody has to die. If you don't pay tax, the government will get you. You have to pay anyway, penalty. And tax, no one can escape tax. Even Hiranyakashipu, he doesn't want to die. But somehow, he has to die also. He finds different ways how to escape death, but he cannot escape death. Even Lord Brahma, he cannot escape death. Even though he is living for 311 trillion years. That's his 100. Everyone has 100 years. Even the insects has 100 years to live. Human form has 100 years. But the 100 years of the insects is not the same as the 100 years of Lord Brahma. Or the 100 years of Lord Brahma is way so much compared to the 100 years of the human form of life in the earthly planets. It's unbelievable. They're one day or 12 hours. Is that what? 4.3 billion years or something like that. It's way too much. But nevertheless, everybody has to die. It doesn't matter what kind of species of life we have. Everybody has to die. Some it may take shorter, some may take longer. So, this even in there's a tree. Prabhupada says that this is that in California? This redwood trees, they're like thousands and thousands of years old. And they're big, so big you cannot embrace them. It's so huge. The trunks, the branches. That means the existence that they have for thousands and thousands of years, those trees, they have to suffer much more. Some people say, I want to die soon, because they don't want to suffer that much. Some people say, I don't want to die, because that is the nature of the soul. They don't want to die, because they're eternal. They want to live forever. But others who are suffering, I don't want to live anymore. I just want to finish my life. Some people who are diseased also, in some countries, who are suffering so much with the disease, because scientists, they're always finding ways how to counteract disease. They're not finding ways how to stop disease. Every time there is a new cancer going on. Before there was no cancer. Cancer came because of so many polluted foodstuffs, so many ingredients, unwanted ingredients is being injected to the food that people are eating, and the government knows this. The government knows that we have to put this so that because pharmaceutical business will go on also, so they try to find ways how to counteract disease, and but they're not finding ways how to stop disease. They're finding ways how to counteract old age, but they don't know, and they don't want to stop old age. They're finding ways how to counteract death, but not stopping death. They cannot stop those things. And in some places, those who are diseased, they're given provision also that because they're suffering too much, then their family, they can ask permission to unplug all of these different gadgets that's being connected to them, and so that their suffering will be a little shorter and they will die sooner also. And some places this is not illegal. Some places it's illegal. There was one doctor, and he advertised himself also that he can help anyone to die quickly by injection of poison. But he got caught anyway, because you cannot take one's life. Life is very precious. It's like even if one wants to commit suicide, and the police found out, and you become a failure in committing suicide, you have to go to jail. Huh? So these different species of life are not free from this repeated birth, death, old age, and disease. And this is the main problem in this world. So Prabhupada gave an example here that as a tree is nourished by water, so this tree is nourished by the three modes of material nature. Every one of us acquired these different modes of nature according to how we associate with them. Some people, they're happy living in the gutter. Some people, they don't, it's like, in some places where we have temples, we see so many people, they live very, very impoverished. They live very dirty, but they're happy. They're happy to be in that way. We ask them to come and join us. No way. They don't want to join. They're happy as they are. So it says here that sometimes we find that a tract of land is barren for want of sufficient water, because different places are like that. Why do people converge in the city? There's so many vacant land, but they don't want to live in those areas. Very few people wants to be in this mode of goodness. Mostly they are into the mode of ignorance and passion. They want to go into the city because they want to take part of the cake, take part of the many ways how they can become luxuriously living. Few people, they want to perform austerities and go to the forest, like sages and holy men who wants to attain the perfection of human form of life. Very few. They live in the Himalayan mountains, for example, who are happy in solitude, who are happy just being by themselves and just meditation. While others, they feel also satisfied and happy by being in a loud place, loud area, where there's a lot of noise. Like this in the city, which is comprised mostly of mode of passion and ignorance. Some people, they cannot live if they're not in a noisy place. They feel more satisfied being there. So this is the effect of the different modes of material nature. Particular modes of material nature are proportionally greater in quantity in other places. Some, because modes of nature, it governs the material energy, this ignorance, passion, and goodness. So in some places, they're more mode of goodness. In some places, they're more of passion and ignorance. It's like if you go to, let's say, a ghetto place, means place where people, they're used to live in crime and violence. They are mostly predominated by the modes of ignorance and passion. And they cannot help it. It's part of their karma to be there. They want to escape, they want to get out of that place, but they cannot. Somehow or other, they're like, it's like a magnet. Magnet attracts iron. And iron is very difficult to get, to get out if it's already attached to the magnet. So these different personalities, some they live in a very peaceful places, as we mentioned earlier, and that is their desires and that is their karma. So unfortunately, those who are in the places where they are in the mode of goodness, as Prabhupada says, being good is not good enough. This modes of material nature, goodness is the best, but it is not good enough, because you still have to come back even if you have that desire of being in the mode of goodness. So the word says here, the word, so the twigs of the tree are considered to be the sense objects. By development of the different modes of nature, we develop different senses, and by the senses we enjoy different varieties of sense objects. So again, it depends on what nature we are. Some people, they want to smell obnoxious things. Others, they cannot stand, this very obnoxious things. Sometimes we go in Harinam and we go to the marketplace where they sell so many, unmentionable foodstuffs. And for them that is natural. In some places, I've seen in YouTube, they eat, a live octopus, alive worms, and they're human. And there's one person is eating dead fetuses. It's like no. Somehow it just came out there. It just came out, and they're eating this food stuff. How can they eat this? You can see the nature. You can see the nature of living beings in this world. Human form of life, eating these different kinds of foodstuffs. Just to show how degraded people are. They're not even humans. They are in this form of human form, but they act subhuman form. Because only animals will do and act like this. So much modes of material, they're so much under the modes of material nature that for them this is normal. This is definitely abnormal. But because they're so much in this modes of material nature, we don't watch this all the time. Somehow it just passed by in the Facebook. When you see the Facebook, somehow some of this is being injected. So it's just showing how even in the earthly planets there are this so much demoniac personalities, because they're always their desire is always increasing and increasing. That means in their next life they'll have different forms of this species of life, because they want to enjoy their senses with the sense objects. And their desires continue on, birth after birth after birth. They will have different kinds of senses, different kinds of sense of taste, sense of smell, sense of touch, sense of hearing, sense of sight, accordingly to how they develop their desires to these different sense objects. So, the real root is from the Brahmaloka. That is the most ideal place, of course, in the entire 14 planetary systems. But still, anyone who takes birth there has to come down again into these earthly planets. And because in the earthly planets, this is the place where one can perform devotional service. In other places, no. The upper planetary systems, there is no bhakti. No one performs bhakti there. He may, but it's not really all the time. Where here in the middle planetary systems, it says here, this planet of human beings is considered the field of activities. The field of activities. Wherever there is the material creation, then there is also different species of life created to reside. But the best place is the middle planetary systems. where one can revive one's original Krishna consciousness. Other places where there is full of sufferings, very difficult, like in the lower planetary systems, when their karma is over, after suffering for so many lifetimes, again they will come back again to this human form of life in the middle planetary systems. Same with the heavenly planetary systems. After they live their duration of life up to a certain extent, because each and every one of us has a certain amount of breathing in and out of air. So after their karma is over, if it's good karma you experience in the heavenly planets, after that is over, one comes down again into this middle planetary systems, in these human planetary systems. So after one enjoys the results of virtuous activities, either in the upper planetary systems or the lower planetary systems, one has to come back again to this earthly planet and to renew his karma. Fortunate are those who will meet the devotees who are spreading the Krishna consciousness movement by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the Krishna consciousness movement is trying as much as possible to help alleviate the sufferings and miseries in this world by performing this Sankirtan Yagya, especially we have so many Ratha Yatras all over the world. Like in Delhi alone, we have at least 12 Ratha Yatras per year. In only one city, NCR, Delhi and surrounding areas, and in different parts of the world. This Sankirtan movement is the greatest boon in Kali Yuga. Otherwise, Kali Yuga is like going so quick, rapidly, that people are becoming more and more degraded. There's only one hope in the age of Kali, is that when they take part in the process of the Sankirtan Yagya. Otherwise, how many more lifetimes, birth after birth after birth, taking different forms or species of life, practically, it says, unlimitedly, without the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and those who are his followers, then it's not possible to get out of this material world. There'll be continuous varieties of sufferings and sense enjoyment, so-called enjoyment, which is, Prabhupada says, enjoyment in the material world is part of the suffering only, because not real. The real enjoyment is going back home, back to Godhead, being with Krishna and serving him with full heart loving devotion. So we'll stop here. Any questions? This is just a continuation of the first part, first verse, talking about the banyan tree. And then later on we'll be able to figure out how to get out of this entanglement. Because being entangled, there is also a way how we can become released. It's not that one is entangled eternally. There's a way how to do it, and we will see it after this.
So I was thinking we have a recent example of the happiness of getting out of the material nature, going back home to God. We saw a big smile on Brahmananda's face. Hardly you can ever think of anybody who dies with a smile on their face.
Satisfied. He's satisfied. He's happy.
He's satisfied. He's happy because he's going to the right place.
Yeah, he knows. He knows.
So I was just listening to your YouTube conversation. Many years ago, when you were still a young man, there was a very famous artist named Andy Warhol. And he started a whole thing of eating babies' embryos.
Yeah,
It was
Prabhupada
considered
heard of that in New York. There was a restaurant like
Yeah.
that.
And this was like a very famous thing. And I can remember when I was very young also, which is a long time ago, and my brother might have been 8 years old or something. The family took us to a restaurant. There was some kind of, I don't know what kind of animal it was, but it was, on the menu it was written brains. And that stupid boy, he ordered this thing.
Hmm.
I think in the middle of the whole thing he vomited also. But I mean, how people could actually think of these things as food. And
Yes, yes.
it's astonishing. So the material world, what it says in the Bhagavatam, the material world just gets lower and more degraded and more
Yes,
degraded.
yes.
So
Definitely.
Lord Chaitanya has given us such an easy way, and the movement is spread in such a way that practically everybody has heard the holy name,
Mm-mm.
so they're all infected
Mm-mm. Definitely.
with this what do you call good what is it called? This kind of what is it called when you create somebody's good
Epidemic.
no good when you create somebody's good fortune? It's called sometimes when you get old you forget what it's
Good social welfare.
no. It's a Sanskrit term. Not corrupted karma, but another kind of karma. Prabhupada created our
Krishna
good
karma.
fortune, our
Krish-
good fortune.
Yes.
But there's a Sanskrit term for that. He created our good fortune.
Bhagyavan.
giving us-
Bhagyavan. Bhagyavan. Bhagyavan means fortune.
Oh, no, that's not
Another
the word.
word.
Agyata Sakriti.
Agyata Sukriti. Yes. Now you know. Krishna is the remembrance and
So, and
forgetfulness.
he created our Agyata Sakriti just by giving us the program we have.
Yes.
And by giving us the program of going out and spreading the holy name, then we help him, we help Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya create the Agyata Sakriti of the whole population of the world, basically
Yes.
speaking.
Yes.
Because it's become so familiar that
Mm.
there are even comic books, I mean, different cartoons you see in newspapers that bring in the Hare Krishna theme in there because it's just part of life now.
Yes.
Very, very wonderful.
Well, one thing I can say is that when devotees, it's easier for one to become a devotee if one has that affinity for being a vegetarian. Of course, being a vegetarian is not good enough also, as Prabhupada says, but when one becomes a devotee, the last thing that, if we are going to break any principles, is to eat meat again. It's unthinkable for a devotee who joined and been a devotee for a long time, and he may return to Maya, but it's very difficult to think of a person who got a taste of Krishna consciousness and then go eat again those abominable foodstuffs. It's amazing how fortunate we are, how we come into this the conclusion of actually trying to surrender unto Krishna. It takes many lifetimes, and it may take many more lifetimes before we can really fully be able to surrender 100% unto Krishna. But definitely we're in the right path. And for those devotees who will observe and seen living their body, especially here in Vrindavan, they're going back home, back to Godhead. It's a very good inspiration for us. It gives us hope that we may be able to somehow by Krishna's grace and mercy, be able to follow in their footsteps. That one day we'll be able to also go back home, back to Godhead like these devotees. Prabhupada's mercy is unlimited for us. That we just, Prabhupada says, you just have to follow the four regulative principles and chant your prescribed rounds, minimum 16 rounds without any offenses. Don't do any Vaishnava parad, and do practical service. Then one will go back home, back to Godhead as well. But it'll be quicker if we tell others also about this process. It'll help a lot, and definitely those devotees who've done so much service for Srila Prabhupada by preaching or describing this process of Krishna consciousness to others, it gives them a lot of pious credits, this bhakti points, for them to enable to actually made it. That at the time of death, you can actually tell that actually they made it. They went back home, back to Godhead. If it's possible for them, it is possible for everyone. It's just a matter of time. As Srila Rupa Goswami says, hope against hope. We should hope against hope that somehow we'll be able to follow this process and actually attain the goal of life. Become detached. We have to become detached. Later on, we'll hear this later on. Be detached in this material world by cultivation of knowledge. So this is the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita, to learn the process of being detached and cultivate this knowledge, so that ultimately we'll fully surrender unto the Supreme Lord through His bona fide representative. It's amazing. I'm amazed for you all to be here also day after day after day to hear the Bhagavad Gita. For others, they don't have taste for, so Bhagavad Gita is for the beginners. Bhagavad Gita is for the, for the bachas.
To become detached, you have to become attached
Yes.
to something.
Mm-mm.
So this is a good thing to become attached.
Yeah, and I really admire you all to be here. It doesn't matter who is a speaker. It doesn't matter, what weather it is, winter time, rainy days, summertime. It doesn't matter, and you're still here day after day. So that is very admirable. Krishna will definitely give you reward for this, because Krishna is happy when he is being discussed in this way. There is always a discussion amongst devotees. He's very much obliged to them. Yes, he gives something.
This banyan tree represents fruitive activities of conditioned souls, how they entangle in the branches of this banyan tree and they cannot grow out of that. But as you said in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna said that from this banyan tree we can be free ourselves just by cutting it by the knowledge of detachment. But again, how to preach this for commonness of people? Because they're so entangled in this self-gratification.
Yeah.
Even the word detachment, they will run away from this place. For them, word detachment itself is something like.
When one comes to the conclusion that actually I'm suffering and I want to be relieved, we can only kind of like remind them. It's like reminding them, and then or infuse the faith on them that actually that yes, there is a hope. But for others, they think that this is it. I cannot do anything, so might as well go with the flow, right? Others will think, I cannot do anything. This is part of the environment. If you're in the environment which is like very much in the mode of ignorance and so much, it's like for others, like they say there is no escape for this. This is it. I took birth here. I lived here, and I'm gonna die here. No, but when they meet a devotee, they give hope. They give hope. They instill faith in them that actually there is hope.
So we should give them something. They become, they overcome their
Yes,
over
yes,
ignorance.
yes. That's why devotees, Prabhupada says, they have to know the books, the sastras, especially the Bhagavad Gita. This is our main book. They have to know this, and it's like lawyers. You'll be able to quote and you'll be able to explain. It's like there are many cases in the court, but they always refer to the old cases from many years back, and then they just say this is what happened there. So this is the judgment. This is the final judgment. The judge used that also. That's why if you go to a lawyer's chamber, or you see so many books, but these are all cases from past. So we have to kind of instill in them. We're giving them a chance here. Preaching means we give them a chance. We don't push this into their throat because we're not, that they don't like. That they don't like. I've been to some places where I don't, when you preach, you don't even have to speak of the word Krishna. You have to use like kind of universal language. But in the end, because they know we're Hare Krishnas, so we have to tell them chant Hare Krishna in the end. But when you talk to them, you talk them into their level where they're able to kind of really understand the language. Because if you start quoting Sanskrit here and there, it's not the same. Because they're very kind of very touchy in some places where we go preaching. It's like we have so many bhakti yoga lounge or yoga lounge or like this. So many people who are already in the mode of goodness, they come. So when you speak to them, you don't preach like the way we talk. So you have to be expert, according to the audience, to their level, how they'll be able to understand what you're talking about. Be like that. Prabhupada can talk to a 5-year-old students, elementary students, and he'll be able to convince them that you're not the body, you're a spirit soul. Mm-hmm. So we should be like that. Expert. Any other questions? First, we have to be convinced. Then we can convince others. Prabhupada says, he asked his GBCs one time, so now are you all convinced about this process? Because if you're not convinced, then how can you convince others? Right? So it is just like that. Anything else? Okay.
One thing about convincing or conviction.
Okay, here. There's some people in the FM land here.
About being convinced.
Turn it on. About being convinced?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
About being convinced, conviction. There's one time I was in London, and whenever I go to London, I go to Camden Market on the weekend.
Okay.
I sit there, especially in the summer, it's nice, there's a little canal there, and I sit there. And always the people that really engage in some conversation, some discussion.
Yes.
And like you say, we can't just immediately tell them about Hare Krishna and things like that. So often we start talking to them and we feel out what is their position. Sometimes the discussions begin about the political climate, about some other things. But then, whatever their point is, I'm able to bring that round to the point of understanding, well, the real reason for these problems in this world is because people have lost, their godliness, because of a godless society. And I remember one day I was speaking to just a couple of people, but very soon a group formed from, so there were about 15 people, and I was speaking to them for about an hour and a half. And then this one girl, and of course they're always competitive, arguing about this and this.
They like that.
So, yeah, they're like, what about this, what about that, always challenging. And this one girl, finally after about 20 minutes arguing with me, she looked at me, she said, "You're so convinced, aren't you? You're so convinced of what you're saying." And I said, "Yes." She said, "How?" I said, "That's because I'm experiencing this." And she said, "When did you experience that?" I said, "Now." Because of this guitar, you're actually on that platform of experience. So, when you're preaching, right, somehow or another, when I'm preaching anyway, and I take that responsibility to serve this personality, that these people who were there before me, Krishna is very pleased and he inspires. Yeah. So it's not just a matter of talking some dry philosophy or quoting some verses that you know, but you're actually inspired that you're speaking, you're realizing what you're saying.
Krishna speaks also ultimately when you start talking. Krishna ultimately.
You become an instrument, you're surrendered.
Actually, Prabhupada says in one of the purports that we're not able to speak if Krishna is the one actually who's enabling us to speak. So that's the way it goes. If you start talking about Krishna, ultimately Krishna is the one who's giving you the inspiration what to say and to be convinced of what you're saying.
Often I would very Christian to people, I should tell them that they should also take responsibility to preach. And of course they say, "Well, I can't preach, I can't sing." And they would say to me, "You're such a good preacher like that, how do you do it?" And I would say to them very simply, I said, "Well, I don't know, I'm not such a big scholar, I don't know so many slokas before than that. But I find myself sitting before somebody, and I think to myself, Krishna, you're within their heart, you're within my heart. So therefore, please, you give me the ability, right, to speak in such a way that I can communicate with them." Because as you say, that's the real doer is Krishna. So we put ourselves in the right position, and Krishna can use us as an instrument.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Getting out of this material world as soon as possible ki jai.
One thing you said that many people say this, well, Bhagavad Gita is just for the beginners.
Yes.
Like this, I was actually listening to a lecture Prabhupada actually saying this.
Yeah.
That Bhagavad Gita is for the beginners, right? He said not for advanced devotees.
Yeah.
Advanced devotees, they don't need to read this Bhagavad Gita. Right? Bhagavad Gita is just for the beginners.
Yes.
Right? But if we are actually advanced devotees, then we take the responsibility for preaching. And if we're preaching to people, we can't speak some high philosophy. We actually have to speak to them the basics ABC. So we actually have to know Bhagavad Gita. Very clear. So it's never for beginners.